Welcome into another edition of WRAL Triangle and Two. I'm Mark Bergen, filling in today for Luis Fernandez. Chris Lee, he's the host of the Culture State podcast, also a member of WRAL Sports. Chris, good to have you here on this Monday morning, and we get to start out right from the top. We get some breaking news this morning. Both Julius Peppers and Muhsin Muhammad joining the Panthers Hall of Honor. As someone who is from North Carolina, I can't think of someone better to talk to than about these two Panthers legends.
Yeah, you knew it was going to be two big-time former Panthers. I know they teased it the other day that there are two more going into their Hall of Honor, and it's cool that David Tepper started this last season. And so to have these two, I think these are two of the Panthers that kind of set the tone for what the organization has become and what it could be in the future.
What do you remember about Peppers as someone who grew up here? Because I'm looking up some of his stats, and it's just like we're talking about one of the best edge rushers of all time.
Peppers is probably the best athlete to ever come out of the state of North Carolina, right? And I'm very comfortable saying that because of what he did in two sports and how well he did it in the sport of football as well. But it was just amazing being a young kid and seeing this guy, Julius Peppers, who would be wreaking havoc on Saturdays on the field for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Then all of a sudden when you get to November and December, you're seeing this guy who's jacked, bigger than all the other basketball players with muscles popping out of everywhere, just bowling people over on a basketball court, playing at a high level there as well. And so it was just amazing to see this guy, this specimen, who could do both sports very well and from the state of North Carolina. Then, like a legend, gets drafted to the Carolina Panthers and ends up being a great defensive end. For them, is the best defensive end in franchise history. And so seeing him, kind of grow up in North Carolina, make his name at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and then also go to play for the Carolina Panthers, it was hurtful when he ended up leaving and going elsewhere, right? Because you wanted to see this story kind of continue to play out in front of the hometown fans. It goes to the Chicago Bears, then goes to the Green Bay Packers. But how all great stories go, he ends up coming back home and gets a good 2 years, a nice little swan song for him with the Carolina Panthers, and did a really good job while he's here. He's definitely one of the best in franchise history.
Yeah, you mentioned the ties to North Carolina. Like, I know MJ's got the ties to Wilmington and UNC, but here's what you're talking about, right? When I say one of the best two-sport athletes ever, you think about Deion Sanders, you think about Bo Jackson. Julius Peppers and Donovan McNabb are the only two people ever to play in a Final Four in basketball and then also to play in the Super Bowl. So elite company there. And he was a reserve on a Tar Heels basketball team. I'm talking about the hardwood here that made it to a Final Four. And so then it's like from the football field standpoint, it's just like, is the size and speed to where he could get around pretty much any tackle with his speed, but he had such long arms, I remember too, to be able to use that as an advantage off the end. It just made the opposing offense's life a living hell. I have no other way of putting it than that, Chris.
Yeah, because he wasn't that guy that was a defensive end that didn't have athleticism, or he had that extra gear that he could pull from, and a lot of it was because of his basketball background, right? He knew how to juke people on the basketball court. He could juke a left guard and get to the quarterback, or left tackle, I should say, and get to the quarterback. So. It's an amazing athlete. He's definitely deserving of the honor to go in the Panthers Hall of Honor. And I would also hope that they retire his jersey number for the Carolina Panthers as well. I think he's definitely deserving of that.
Yeah, I think when he's eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame a year from now in that 2024 class, because you have to be retired for 5 years, he should be in on first ballot. He has to be. Now, maybe the argument against him would be, okay, he's fourth all-time in sacks in the NFL. He never led the NFL in sacks during a single season. He did lead it in TFLs, but I think part of that is, okay, the attention that he garners off the edge. To me, the mark of a Hall of Fame player is that if an opposing team has to game plan for that player where it's like, know where this guy is at on the field at all times. Julius Peppers was certainly that.
I mean, not only just that, like you talk about 9 Pro Bowls. He was first team All Pro 3 times, 3 times for the second team All Pro. 2000s All Decade team, 2010s All Decade. Like, come on, man. Like he's got to be first ballot just because while he was playing, he garnered enough of those accolades to show that he was one of the best of the time. And if you're one of the best of the time, you definitely have to get that serious nod. And then you said it yourself. You said top 4 all time in sacks?
Mm-hmm. 4th all time.
That doesn't sound like a first ballot. That doesn't sound like a first ballot Hall of Fame. Like I hope the voters do not like overthink this. Like sometimes you can overthink things a little bit too much. Do not overthink this. Julius Peppers, even if you just go to the Wikipedia page, if you've never seen him play, look at the Wikipedia page. That will tell you that's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
And I think we think of Peppers a little bit differently, Chris, if not for the Super Bowl loss. They're right there with the Patriots. And remember, final Patriots drive up the game. They kick it out of bounds. Patriots get it at the 40-yard line. 3 timeouts and a minute and some change left. And it sets up a long field goal. We remember what the Patriots built with their dynasty. If the Panthers go on and win that game, we probably remember Peppers even more fondly. Something we remember here in North Carolina, but I'm talking about throughout the country, football fans all throughout this country, I think might remember him a little bit differently. They were right there with the Patriots, and it's like, if not for a botched kickoff, maybe we remember history just a little bit differently.
And that's a great point because outside of that year with the Panthers, he never really was on a team that you remember, right? Like you can't go back and say, that team, they should have won it all, or that team should have. He didn't really have, like when he was with the Bears, they were decent Bears teams. When he was with the Packers, they were decent Packers teams. And of course, when you have Aaron Rodgers and Julius Peppers on the same team, you always have a chance to go far in the playoffs. But those teams just weren't like super dominant teams. They weren't all-time teams that we're going to sit back and think fondly of and think like, man, like what if? So I think that's probably the only thing that goes against him. But other than that, I'm just imagining if he would have stayed with the Panthers and if the Panthers still would have been able to have that magical 2015 run with Cam Newton and Julius Peppers on the same team, and maybe what you're saying with that first Super Bowl run, if he didn't get it, maybe that second Super Bowl run maybe would have done the trick for him. So we could play the what-if game all day, but we know what is fact. Julius Peppers is the first ballot Hall of Famer. He has to go in. Voters, do not overthink this next year.
Yes. Okay, so let's go to Moose now. And big-bodied receiver, a great tandem with he and Steve Smith. And what I remember from Moose is the fans chanting his name whenever he'd get a first down, but I loved his touchdown dance, the through-the-legs basketball style. That is what I'll remember from him as a receiver with the Panthers and with the Bears as well. Another player who played for both franchises, Chris.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about Muhsin Muhammad and Steve Smith together, they set the bar so high for Panthers receiving corps in the future. I still don't think that the Panthers have ever had a 1-2 punch the way that they had with Muhsin Muhammad and Steve Smith. They just haven't had the guys yet. You thought that at some point maybe Kelvin Benjamin and also Devin Funchess could possibly grow into that. We saw very quickly that wasn't the case with those two guys. But Muhsin Muhammad, Steve Smith, sticking with Moose, he was that first, big time receiver for the Carolina Panthers, and he showed you what could be possible with that position. So somebody that is he's basically a North Carolinian now. I mean, he's still in Charlotte. He's helping build the city up. I believe he has a construction company down in the city of Charlotte, so he's helping out with that expansion there. So he's just a North Carolina guy now. So it's definitely a great honor for him to go into Panthers Hall of Fame, a Hall of Honor, and to be recognized forever for what he's done for this franchise.
Yeah, and make no mistake, a very, very good player. He will go in the Panthers Hall of Honor. Do not hold your breath for Muhsin Muhammad to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, though. It's not to take away from his career, but he just wasn't quite on that elite level. But two very, very deserving players, and players that you think of who are some Carolina Panthers greats through the years that we watched growing up. And these were two names. As soon as I saw them, it was just like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And you can't forget about his great performance in the Super Bowl, too, against Tom Brady and the Patriots. So if you ever go back and watch that game, Muhsin Muhammad he showed out. Him and Steve Smith absolutely showed out. Actually, that whole playoff run, they showed out. So congratulations to him. It's definitely seeing number 87 up there for the Carolina Panthers will be huge.
Let's keep this rolling. We'll go to the hardwood, Chris, and UNC gets another transfer in the transfer portal. They get West Virginia transfer James Okonkwo. I might be mispronouncing that, but the thing that I'm going to take away from this,
I think Chris, you did it right.
Yes. It's not really the scoring, only 2.5 points per game last season for West Virginia, but led his team in blocks. But he joins 4 other forwards on the Tar Heels roster at this point, 6'9" and above. So what I'm seeing is North Carolina getting taller, getting more length, and what that can do for the team from a defensive standpoint. That's what this signals to me. We'll get into the Bob Huggins piece in a little bit, but what say you in terms of what's been a very, very busy offseason for the Tar Heels?
I love this for the Tar Heels. I mean, you talked about the other power forwards. You have Zayden High, who's a freshman, who's coming in. And then you also have Jalen Washington, who's a sophomore, and he's, still developing himself. And then also Jalen Withers, who's transferring in. You'd expect Jalen Withers to probably play a little bit more of a wing role. So you needed somebody who has experience, who can be a legit backup for Armando Bacot, which is one of the things that I don't think the Tar Heels had last year, and you saw it hurt them during the season, but especially down the stretch, especially as the attrition of the season starts catching up to players, and you start seeing Armando Bacot, that last game of the ACC tournament when I think it was against Virginia, and Armando Bacot barely played in that second half because he tweaked his ankle once again. And Jalen Washington, God bless him, he was a freshman. He just wasn't up to the task at that point, so the Tar Heels had to go with the smaller lineup. This is Hubert Davis really biting his teeth into where they were weak last year. They're going to be stronger at point guard because they didn't have a true point guard last year. So you have that in Seth Trimble. You also have more shooting. He added that with Cormac Ryan and then Paxton Wojcik. But now you're getting bigger. You have guys that can back up Armando Bacot if something were to happen. And I think that's where James Okonkwo could be. Just basically a nice big body that could go against some of those other big bodies in the ACC. I mean, even with Armando Bacot, he was killed on that pick and roll every time that they went against Duke last year, right? Mm-hmm. And so now, you don't have the same guys. It's not the same makeup for Duke. But if you go against another team that's like that, or if Duke tries that same thing, you have bigger bodies and more bodies to kind of throw at that, stop those things from happening. So big time pickup for Hubert Davis. Definitely going to be interesting to see how he fits all the pieces together.
I like that a player leading the team in blocks and then 3.5 rebounds in 11 minutes per game for Okonkwo as well. And then it's like, okay, being able to take advantage of the turmoil at West Virginia in the aftermath of Bob Huggins' resignation. Now, Bob Huggins' lawyer is saying that, oh, no, my client did not resign from West Virginia following a drunken driving arrest. My 2 cents worth is this is just my opinion, Chris. Make sure Bob Huggins gets right if he is to return to the game because, okay, if this was the first time, that would be one thing. But when he's not only jeopardizing his own life, but putting at risk the safety of others to where it's been a repeated problem for him at West Virginia, this isn't his first mishap. It's, hey, he himself has to get right. And returning to the sidelines and a basketball floor, this has nothing to do with Bob Huggins, the basketball coach. It has to do with you have to get your day-to-day right as a person and as a human. And that's where I'm saying, hey, North Carolina here with this transfer is taking advantage of, we don't know how that situation is going to unfold with West Virginia. Because, again, from a basketball standpoint, Bob Huggins is a legendary coach.
Yeah. If you remember when he left Cincinnati, I mean, he resigned from there, and that was started by being arrested from a DUI, right? So you're right. This is a continual problem for Bob Huggins, and I just want him to read the room. Read the room. Even if, I think we all kind of expected this situation was really, hey, Bob, step in office. You can either resign or we will fire you right now. That's probably the situation, right? So now after this, why come back to sue the school? The school has a job to do. The school looked out for you by putting it out the way that they did. And
hang on, Chris. Let me interrupt you really quickly too. This is also a decision that Bob Huggins made in the aftermath of his radio interview just this same offseason.
Oh, he said that in a radio interview.
Well, in terms of derogatory comments he made, I'm not going to repeat them here on this show, in this podcast.
Oh, I forgot about that. That too. Yeah. Yeah, he just read the room, Bob. Like, it's you can't continuously be bad PR and expect to keep your job. Now, I don't expect him to go for too long without a job. Maybe he'll be sitting at home for the next year, and if something opens up next year, maybe not as big as West Virginia, but something maybe at a mid-major or whatever, I'm pretty sure he'll get an opportunity. But read the room. Like, you have to be a good citizen these days, just mainly because, like, companies, schools, they're not going to take you having all of this bad PR. I mean, you mentioned it just now on the radio show with having those, I believe those homophobic slurs that he put out there. And then, of course, with the DUI, and that's not your first. You've done this before in the past. Yep. Like, bro, you're not going to stick around. Like, Mark, do you think me and you would last one of those with our current job at WRAL? No.
It's as simple as this.
We'd be out.
Chris. Yeah,
we get one of those, we're out.
To me. And it's like, for me, it's like you'll always be employed as long as what you bring to the table outweighs the negatives. But it goes back to, multiple situations where it's terrible PR. And it's like, have you learned your lesson? And it reaches a point, too, where when you're like one of the highest paid public employees in the state, you take on a public persona that is sometimes bigger than that of a governor in a respective state. That's how passionate fans are about college football and college basketball. And so that, to me, it's like you have a responsibility to where, especially with young players you're trying to recruit, Chris, and a lot of them aren't going to go pro. A lot of them aren't going to. So it's like, if I'm a student athlete, it's like I want to go somewhere that's going to help mold, my son or daughter for what sport they're playing, how I would want them to be raised, the life lessons that I want them to learn for whatever it is that they choose to do with their life. But Chris, we can move on because we've run out of time here. NBA Summer League observations. I don't want to take too much away from just a few games that are meaningless, by the way. But I have to say this. I look at the top 3 picks, Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson. And it's like, after this opening weekend, I know that the Hornets played in the California Classic too. I can see why you took Wembanyama number 1. I can see why Scoot was as heralded as he was. Brandon Miller is just the consistency. I still think he could be a very good player, but it's just like, of those 3, if you asked, hey, which one would you not want to have? For me right now, that answer is Brandon Miller. I think with Summer League too, Chris, I'm going to say this as well. Your biases are reconfirmed of whatever it is that you were to believe going in, but Man, it's like I watched Wembanyama last night, and I was just blown away with what he can do. We'll go from here.
Yeah, he amazing game. Like his second game there, people were kind of down on his first game, only having 9 points, and it's unfair to these guys when you just look at points, right? If you watch the game and you see what's going on in the game, Brandon Miller's stat lines haven't looked good. The first 2 games he had, I think, about 10 fouls, maybe more. He had more fouls than made field goals. So it's, his first 2 games did not look good at all. But he did a few things that were promising. Like you would see, there's one sequence where he got a steal, went down to the other end, and got a big-time dunk. And then the ball is outletted again. He plays some really good defense, and then the Hornets get a quick stop. Those are the things that you're really kind of looking for these guys in Summer League. If you just look at the stat line, you might be disappointed. Like you said, you're going to reconfirm some of your biases. Victor Wembanyama is the best prospect out of all 3 for sure. And you saw that, and I think I even saw that in the first game where he was a little bit more of a distributor, and you saw this 7'3" guy taking guys off the dribble and making these amazing passes to open teammates who are getting buckets. Like, you just don't see that a lot. And then he brought the scoring in for his second game. Brandon Miller, he'll be fine. Will he be an all-star? I don't know. I think he'll be a pretty good player, though. He'll definitely get to a second, maybe a third contract. The rest is going to be up to him to learn the game. I will say, though, I hope he's paying attention to James Bouknight, because James Bouknight is looking horrible for the Charlotte Hornets right now. And I don't know if James Bouknight is even going to make the team for as bad as he looks. And he was a lottery pick for the Hornets, like, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So, and he's still playing in Summer League. So that's not a good look on James Bouknight. So I hope that Brandon Miller is looking down the locker room from him and looking at number 2 and saying, you know what, let me not do that. Because whatever James Bouknight is doing right now is not helping his cause to be on this team.
The play last night that blew me away, Chris, was along the baseline where Wembanyama shoots a shot, he misses, and he goes to the other side of the hoop to collect his own rebound. And the way he's just able to move like a gazelle, but it reminded me of like when you're a kid on the playground and the other kid's just taller than you and there's nothing you could do even if you could box him out. That play where it's just like the way he was able to move was just different than what I've seen from that of a basketball player, just given his length. And, maybe I'm a little bit down on Miller after a few Summer League games, which again are meaningless. But maybe I would have felt the same way if Scoot had actually played against Wembanyama last night. They had that great exhibition game about a year ago, and Scoot out with an injury. He didn't play last night. The day we get to see Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama on the same floor again is going to be a great day, and I look forward to that. But Scoot, to me, like the reason why I wanted him in Charlotte is the way he carries himself is just like an alpha. There's elements of, say, a Derrick Rose or a Russell Westbrook with that first step and being able to get to whatever spot he wants to on the floor because he's able to blow by his opposing defender. There's a little bit of Chris Paul to his game as well, though, in terms of the start and stop, in terms of knowing what to do with the basketball, even at this young of an age. And it's just a mix that the way he carries himself, I wanted Scoot to go to the Hornets. I'm on record saying that, and I'm going to double down here yet again.
I'm with you. I wanted Scoot as well, but I think you hit on something right there. Chris Paul is such a good player, but he's not the most athletic guy. Scoot Henderson does look like the athletic, bigger version of Chris Paul. If he can get to his shot and make his shot consistently, his problem really is shooting. And in his one Summer League game, I thought he did a decent job making some big-time shots. If he can do that on a consistent basis, he's going to be amazing. And a lot of folks who were anti-Scoot going to the Hornets were like, well, what are you going to do with LaMelo Ball? It's okay to have 2 ball handlers. It's okay to have guys that both can handle the ball, who both can initiate the offense. What's wrong with that? If you have 2 guys who can do that.
The Hornets were 27 and 55 last year. And I know Ball was hurt, but it's like, I understand he's an all-star, but just get better point blank, period.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, if you have 2 guys, if you make them learn both how to play off the ball a little bit, so they can go between each other. What's wrong with having them split, the ball and the handling of the passing responsibilities? I think that's almost where basketball is going anyway, because you're seeing so many times where even the Hornets do this. If P.J. Washington gets the rebound, P.J. Washington is the one bringing it up the court. Like, that's how basketball is going. So what would be wrong with having Scoot Henderson there? So I'm with you right there. I really hope – I wanted the Hornets to get him, but, we'll live with Brendan Miller.
Okay. We need to move on. We could talk till sundown about the Hornets, Chris. I have no doubts. I'm going to give you first crack at this, though, to explain to me the significance of the NBA in-season tournament and the NBA Cup. Sell me. The floor is yours. I'm going to give you the opening shot, because I'll be honest with you, I just don't understand the significance.
Well, I'll make it brief, but basketball is probably one of the biggest and arguably maybe the biggest sport internationally. You could probably put soccer ahead of it, but depending on which countries that you're talking about. But basketball or soccer, those are the biggest sports. And what basketball has a problem with right now is the significance of the regular season. With football, your team is only going to play 17 times. Each game actually means something. Each loss could mean you're not in the playoffs. Each win could be you're in the playoffs, right? And with basketball, you just don't have that, especially with load management and things of that sort, and players sitting out games. So now you have a situation where you're incentivizing players there's something to play for that means something. On these Tuesday nights, it's not going to be a regular Tuesday night game between the Timberwolves and whomever else, right? That might seem boring. No, this means if you winning your group play and you can get to the knockout round, then you're potentially going towards an NBA Cup. You're going to see players actually playing. You're going to see NBA basketball that matters in November. You're going to see basketball that matters in December outside of a Christmas Day game. You know what I'm saying? And so now you're going to have the best of the best from these teams. It's going to become appointment television because you don't have that during the regular season until you get to the All-Star break and then after the All-Star break in the NBA. So I think this is going to be great for the NBA for their future. They didn't put in where the winner of the NBA Cup would have an automatic bid to the playoffs. I wish they would have because I think that would incentivize teams a little bit more. But now you actually have appointment television from the NBA in November and December, and we haven't had that in a very long time.
Several things I want to break down here. You mentioned the incentives for the players. I get that they can make more money if they win this cup. So, okay. But I still don't understand from a fan standpoint why I'm going to care. Now, I will say this. From a scheduling standpoint, not conflicting with football, I think was smart of the NBA because there's really no conflict there. So it's good on the NBA for that. I would have liked to see the NBA take this a step further to say the winner of this either gets a playoff bid, maybe they get some sort of relief if they have to pay the luxury tax, maybe they get an additional draft pick. Make it a higher incentive to say if your team goes on and wins this tournament, there's more at stake than just, okay, you win an NBA Cup, an in-season tournament. Now, am I going to watch? Absolutely, I'm going to watch because when it's an up-and-coming team like, let's say, the Magic going up against the NBA Elite in, say, a finals matchup, and I'm just using the Magic as an example, but like a team that you don't expect to be there, I am going to be excited. But this to me is just like, I still don't understand the stakes. And I feel like it's like whichever team Patrick Beverley is on is going to end up winning this thing. And it's going to be like, what is the purpose? I want to see the league more incentivize the teams to actually win the tournament. I think that's the next step of this, Chris. That's what I want to see.
Well, also, I think, I would want to see that as well. But I also think that like having the NBA Cup means that you put the spotlight on more teams, right? Because, there's a lot of people who would say like, especially when the Warriors won last year, oh, the Warriors won again, that's boring. Or if the Lakers were to win, oh, LeBron James is back, and, that's boring. what if you just brought up a good example? What if the Magic is there? What if it's the Magic versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that is the final? Two young and up and coming teams, and now you get a chance to see these teams on a grand stage in the middle of the season start to figure it out together and start to grow up together in these big time moments. I think that's needed because so many of these games in the NBA are throwaways. You have these guys coming from college or overseas or whatever, used to these big time games, and now in the NBA, really, there's no big time games until you get to the postseason. And so I think that's what the NBA Cup means for fans. It means that now these are games that mean something, that have stakes, and when there's stakes involved, when there's a reason to watch, that makes it all the better, in my opinion. And so I think this is going to end up turning out a lot better than what you may think. And I'm excited to watch some games with you.
I want to get to a few years in. I like tournaments of any sort, but I just think $500,000 for a max level player like a LeBron, like a Kevin Durant, it's like I'm still just I'm at a shrug, Chris, but you do make a compelling argument. Chris, is there anything you need to plug before we sign off here?
I want to say this. Look out for this. This is coming very soon. Panthers Playbook is going to be another podcast coming from WRAL and the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network. Myself, Dennis Cox, we will be the host of that show. I will be going to every Panthers home game, maybe some road games. We'll see what happens with the budgeting. We'll have immediate post-game reaction on that podcast, and then we'll also have a preview during the week of the game that's upcoming. So there'll be something new that we're bringing out for Capital Broadcasting. Be on the lookout for that. You should probably start seeing it maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. I think the first episode will probably come out sometime around training camp.
Chris, that's awesome news. You're the absolute best. I want to thank you, Chris Lee. I'm Mark Bergen. Thank you so much for watching another edition of WRAL Triangle and 2. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care. So long, everybody.